Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi live noding. Today we're gonna take a look on how to procedurally make something that resembles like this dandelion, or I don't know how you pronounce it correctly, but this flower has kind of interesting features where it's kind of everything about this plants or flowers very procedural. If you see the more stylistic version of it, it's basically like a stick that goes out and then kind of recursively makes another branching. Or yeah, so let's try doing something like this, even though we might end up something that's kind of super rough, but we will see. Anyway, I'm gonna actually just gonna explore this idea using animation nodes first and then go to Sverchok. So basically we need with Dandelion so we have like this core, and then we have like kind of things branching out like that, and then each one of these is another like a ray, kind of like that. So we're gonna start with just creating one of them. So start with new fresh scene and then go to compositing, and we'll have a look. We're gonna start with animation nodes first because I want to show you something that's kind of interesting to understand. Animation node has obviously has a line mesh, and we can start from that. Line mesh will generate a line. Let's see, output it real quick. So create a new target. So we're gonna have a mesh in the end, and then we need a mesh data, of course. Mesh data that comes from line mesh. We get a line, just a single line. We could have more than 2 vertices. At the moment it has 2 vertices by default, so it's nothing particularly spectacular, but we have this start like a 0, 0, 0 start point, and then we have the end point right there, and you can change it to anything. So in my thought process of creating this, I realized, okay, we probably can use random. Okay, random number. So let's write random, not a random number, because we have we need a 3 value, so we need random vector. Plug that in, and then we don't see anything. Oh, okay, we see something there. Now I can play with the seed, and as you can see, it's kind of generating those kind of, if we have like 100 of these, maybe we gonna get something that resembles like a ray, and that's a start for our kind of a dandelion creations. So how are we gonna do that with this? So that's a big question, right? So you may already know the answers. Okay, maybe we need a bunch of 0, 0, 0 and bunch of vectors. That is correct. In fact, we're gonna do that real quick. So we need a bunch of this vector as a list already, so we can have like multiple points. Yeah, let's do that. So random vector, just this node will only generate one vector value, but if you want many, then we need a loop. This is animation nodes, and we need to use loop to do this kind of thing. So the index usually goes to the seed, and then it needs to output a vector list. So I'm gonna do that real quick. So we have this loop already, and then now we just need to just need to use it. So there's a my loop there. This gonna output bunch of vector. We can debug it, debug loop or debug list, because this is the output, and we can see the output is actually list. Let's check it out real quick. And yeah, so we have a bunch of vectors right there. So we can then use that list inside a loop once again to generate bunch of these lines. Okay, let's do that. We just need to delete this, and then with this guy selected, so we have 20 of the random vector. With tab W and then loop through the vector list. So once again we are creating a loop. I'm gonna change the color of this. Okay, let's see. ANSV Dandelion. I'm gonna change the color of this loop to make it clearer. So that guy selected. Where's the color? Green. Okay. Cool. So this loop is generating random vector, and we're gonna loop it inside this guy. So random vector, let's plug it into the end of the points. And as you can see, we still only have a single line. Why? Because our target object is just a single object. It's only outputting a single object. We need a bunch of them. So we need object instancer. So we don't need to, it's not copying from any source, so we just turn that off. So we need probably 20 of them as well. And create input integer input, just so that we can connect these two. So we have 20 iterations of the vector and 20 copies of objects. We plug that in, and okay, now we're getting something. We could have like 100 of them or 88. Here 88 is good. So it's like that's the start. We can randomize the line length probably. If we like to do that. There's one thing, interesting thing is with the loop, sometimes it's automatically generates this like a repeat for you. Before I thought that I need to also provide a bunch of 000 for each line. Apparently I don't need to do that. It's the loop's taking care of itself. It's generating the 000. So that's nice. If you want a random scale vector, you can randomize it further here with a vector math, and there's a scalar, like a scalar scale. That's a scale, and if I just plug that in and see, I'm able to scale the each and every line like that. It's really what it does is scaling the vector. And if you want a different scale, you can use random. So this is all pretty basics, but also requires some like a mathematical thinking. Scale, okay, random seed, the scale, random number goes into the scale. So you can have random number. Yeah, I believe that's actually doing it. Let me test 0.2. So there must be a line that's around 0.2 and 1. So that's kind of more natural looking rays, even though the Dandelion doesn't need this kind of maybe it doesn't have this kind of randomization. It's pretty simple, the Dandelion. Scale with the start vector. What happened if I plug that in? Okay, that's kind of interesting. Vector goes in there, and the number, and I delete the wrong thing. Let's cut that. Goes back to that. But as you can see, this is we have two looping happening, and kind of a little bit complex in a way. We can of course combine this. So at the moment, every instance is a different object. You can combine it into a single mesh just for so that yeah, it's much simpler. And you perhaps want to have random of this ray. You can use the seed, of course, but that seed should be back to this guy. Yeah, that's if you want to use animation nodes. Now I'm gonna quickly switch to Sverchok and see how Sverchok does it. So I'm gonna delete all, probably start fresh. File, save as ANSV Dandelion 3. New compositing, new node 3, and we use Sverchok this time. So with Sverchok, the Sverchok line is actually looking quite different. If I draw the line, see, as you can see, Sverchok line is much kind of simpler. It doesn't provide the start point or end point input output. How are we going to create the Dandelion thing then? You probably need a bit of familiarity with Sverchok for that, but however, I'm gonna show you. So instead of using the line node, the one comes with Sverchok, you can use let's say if you use a random vector in Sverchok is almost like in a, if compared to AN, we need to create our own loop to create a random vector. Sverchok random vector can generate that for you automatically. Okay, so that's a good point to start with. It has the seed. It doesn't have the scale, but we can easily add a scale using vector math and multiply scalar. So it's a different terminology. So that's a scale. Okay, so that's good. We have the count of the iterations to create a random vector, and then we have the seed, and we have the scale. So that's nice. Okay, so how do we create the dandelions? Yeah, apparently, so if I copy that random vector and then let's leave that behind for a while. Random vector, we have something called UV. UV connections in Sverchok is kind of powerful. It does these line connections. It can do it for array of lines, data as well. Hard to explain in one in one sentence, but basically if you have like random points and then plug it to the vertices, and then we can check it out using a viewer draw, and the data will be the edges. So by default it's really gonna generate this kind of like line connections. Okay, that's cool, right? It's connecting every single line in order. But what if you want to have the rating? That's the big question. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I can just plug in like a 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, so vector in, plug that in there, and change the V direction. So okay, I got something happening there. So a single lines happening. I mean, it's like the ray, but it's only one. Okay, how do we do the rest then? Maybe you guess, okay, we need to have a list repeater. Let's try list repeater, and then okay, it seems to be broken. Let's see, make it like a 50 of them. Still, there is nothing. Here, it's really good. It's a good idea to check the data. So I am using the viewer tags and check it out. Sverchok viewer is a bunch of vector lists. It's 50 of them because we have 50 count there. Okay, 50 random vector, and we have 50 lists at the bottom there. But what's the difference? Okay, the difference is, so sometimes in Sverchok you have to understand it's you have a list inside a list inside a list, kind of array of data like that. It's sometimes it's not always easy to see what's going on. It's kind of like a Matryoshka doll. You have another doll inside, and you have to kind of maybe open up the big doll and then get the smaller data. So, but sometimes all you need is these three nodes. Okay, list repeater and list split, and then list delete. So these three nodes is your friend. Kind of in Sverchok you can kind of unfill data, and then you can put the data inside the list, or you can take the data out of the list to make it just the way you need it. So you need the data to be more like that. A simple list of 50 is one object 50 instead of something like that. How are you going to do that? Let's try with unwrap. So unwrap is kind of doing it, but it's still not correct. We need probably level 2. Yeah, that's actually what you need, because if you didn't unwrap it, it's not gonna work. You cannot actually bake it. So there we go. That's the beginning of our dandelion. If I bake it and then investigate this guy, see, it's already kind of like a single mesh right there. Even though we really, if I get a single of the line, like just a single line like that, tap L, it's probably each of the line is actually separate lines. You can combine them using Sverchok has remove doubles. some remove doubles can help if we just plug that in, and let's delete the grease pencil, beaver, and the edges, and then we bake. So that's actually a single object, and it's all connected into single point there. And if I use a skin modifier, it's gonna work actually. I'm not gonna do that, it's gonna maybe take a while, but it's a skin modifier, it's pretty robust, it can do that. So we can just remove doubles. The question now is, what if we want like a bunch of this guy instead of a single, like a single generation of this guy? We want a bunch of them, and we want to randomize the seed. How are you going to do that? We apparently can use the monad thing to do that, even though the monad thing is kind of experimental, especially with the vectorization part. We could actually use monad here, and we will see real quick. So we have this UV connect, list repeater 0, 0, 0, and random vector there. First of all, I want to try if I just use a matrix in here and then try to create instance. Let's see what's happening. Just gonna use that line. So that generates instance, which is good, but we don't have like the randomizations happening. Let's use the monad then. So the count, there's a random vector and the count, so we're gonna create integer first. Gonna separate the process, like this bunch of processing, separate it into this. Okay, so that's good. We also have the seed. We can connect it later, but this guy can go inside the monad or inside the group. Yeah, let's create. So I'm selecting them and then control G. Now I'm inside the monad, inside the group. We have the integer here where we actually want it outside. So I will just connect the count there and then the seed, and the count can also go into that number. So I think this is correct and it's gonna work. Let's go outside, go up to the parent and of the monad. Let's have a look. So we have the count and we have the seed, and this guy is become a single monad. So this, I'm gonna call it raise. I can call it hey beaver something. I'm just gonna call it raise. What if we now do the matrix thingy, just duplicate it along the line? It's still doing the same thing, like a same copy for each. So that's the same to this. I want something that's more with variations. So we're gonna randomize the parameters, and let's do that real quick. Line, let's see. So that's the count is integer and the seed is integer. So let's try range integer. The count, I'll use the count instead of range. Count and start from not 0. Just be careful. This is the default start and step. I can start with 5, maybe stepping 1, and do it for 10 times. Plug this into the count. Okay, that's the result we get. Maybe we need to turn on vectorize and split. So now we have That's, I believe that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I increase the step, you can see clearly that's kind of like the generations. It's generating, that's 5, that's 10, 15, 20, 25. That's exactly what we want. That's good. But that's for the count. Maybe for the count we don't. We actually want it the same. Maybe 50 points. But we want to randomize the seed. So plug that into the seed, and then we get it. Now we get it. See, it's actually working. Each one of them has different seeds, so they have different look and unique, even though they're the same. Just like a human, different colors, but they're same kind of not object, like a creature. Maybe one day we're gonna create like creature generator, but start from insects. But for now, it's this simple race of Dandelion. Okay, at this stage we're really pretty much done. We could do a little bit more, but that's pretty good, I guess. I can even lay it out in a, oops, I delete the matrix. Laid it out in a grid fashion. So grid is the grid or plane. Vertices. So maybe 4 by 4 is 16. 16 of them, so we need 16 count in the randomization. 16 of them. They're, if I bake them, they're gonna be 16 different objects. And the cool thing is of course, we can use this if we group it. I'm gonna group it real quick, and then each one of them is already centered. I can use it inside animation nodes. So objects from group, objects from group, get it, and for each one of them we can transform it individually. Do that. Just the location, rotation, scale, that's up to you. So object, and then object. Okay, rotation, we haven't randomized it. We need a random vector, and then with a random seed, and then scale it up. So we get this guy at random position. You don't want to animate it like that. It's a bit crazy, but you can use wiggle. Vector wiggle with a random seed like that, and then we can use vector math just to offset this position, and the evolutions will animate it. So it's kind of like each object is in their unique positions, and then just they're moving slightly. Each of this dandelion array is moving slightly. So this is how I think Sverchok and animation nodes can work together. That's more like in object level. Object level animations is simple to do in animation nodes. You can offset each one of them. They look pretty random already. So if we add just a rotation, we don't need to scale it because they're pretty different. We can rotate wiggle, Euler wiggle. I think that's a good one to use. And we use frame into the plug into evolutions, seed to the index, Euler into the rotations, and then increase the rotation. So they're actually slightly rotating. Yeah, so that's kind of like a almost like a dandelion, but not really. we need to, we really need to, we're kind of there, but not quite. We need to have the stick for each ray. We have one. We need one of that. So that's kind of more like a dandelion thing. But that's I'm gonna leave it for you to. It's gonna be a good exercise for you. Yeah. So this is a 16 then like a rays of, I don't know, like seeds of dandelions. But you have this. You have all the kind of all the techniques to do it. And what interesting for me is this monad thing. Even though it's experimental, it might disappear from Sverchok one day, or it might continue, and I don't know. So it's up to the Sverchok developer. The fact that we can do this inside and then turn it into like a node, monad node, and can randomize, can have this happening is really powerful. You can further, of course, randomize the length of this rays. I'm not gonna do that, but you can do that. Yeah, so try this setup anyway, and then randomize, maybe randomize the count and randomize the seed. Instead of range, you can use like a random in the seed, like with the count as well. You can gonna show you real quick. Use a random. So random maybe 30. See, random is gonna generate value between 0 and 1. Random value. We can map it just like in animation nodes, similar, and then output it like that. So this is random value between 0 and 10, maybe 5 and 20. Random value between 5 and 20. Yeah, its dandelion is now even more, has more variations. That's cool. It's almost like a virus kind of objects. It does only this single branching. Will be cool if it can do more branching and more branchings. Then you have like a dandelion. I was thinking maybe we should do that. Maybe we don't. Let's. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right here. Hopefully this is useful for you. If you like, you can give comments and ask questions. Yeah, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you